this is the 344th episode, like
really
that we've recorded.
Jeez. Yeah.
And it's just like we start getting harebrained with our shit. So
I don't think your idea is harebrained. Let's get into it.
Okay.
What are we talking about?
Okay, so I want to set up something in an idea here. I think that this has been percolating in my brain for a while, and I've been trying to find the language to articulate this and like the framework to convey this to people in a way that they can relate to.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what we've landed on is I want to set up this idea of what I think you and I are going to call a directive for a deck. A directive, if I can define this, is probably something that you're thinking of as if you do custom categories on your deck lists. These are probably going to be the directives that you have, right? So these are things that they independently are trying to achieve, and maybe they have some kind of synergistic capabilities with other directives in your deck.
Yeah.
Right. And we could maybe even think of directives as like your veggies, but then also your things you're trying to do to win the game as well. Right. Like card draw might be a directive, mana development might be a directive, but then also if you, let's say that you have a white weenie deck, a directive you're going to have are these like small white creatures, and maybe it's producing white tokens that you have, just these little white weenies, right? Like that's a directive in your deck. And maybe you want to do something else with that. So you've got some soul sisters with that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's now,
because you're like, I'm already here.
Yeah. So now you've got a second directive that's part of your deck is you've got your soul sister directive and you've got your white weenie directive, right? So these are things that are in your deck. The idea that's been percolating in my brain is I think that there are some commanders that facilitate having a multi-directive deck really well.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them that may reward you for having a multi-directive deck. And then there are some themes that are just inherently multi-directive. And I think something that's kind of distilling in my brain is because we have the existence of these multi-directive decks, we kind of think or might get lulled into feeling like it's always possible when we're brewing and when we're playing.
Yeah.
And I do not think that all decks are created equally in their capacity to bear the burden of multiple non-veggie directives.
Yeah, I like that. So to summarize a little bit, and this is maybe, because I don't know, something just hitting my head as you're saying it. If I went to some of my deck lists online, because I do custom categories. I'm not interested in what the card is so much as what it's doing for the game plan. And then the other thing is I really just use it to keep track of where I'm at with things. Like I can quickly make a generalization of I don't have enough draw.
Yeah.
Or I don't have enough mana, or ramp or mana production.
Yeah.
Right?
There's not enough lands. There's not enough rocks, whatever.
Or if I need something very specific, I'll be like, I don't have enough evasion.
Yeah.
Because that's the commander rewards a combat damage trigger or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm wondering like if you can tell how generic a commander is by just how generic its custom categories are, where it's so obvious what I should be doing. So like I've been trying to get Tiff's dragon deck dialed in, this Urani.
Yeah.
And it really is just the dragons are just sitting in these things.
Yeah.
There's like, okay, here's the dragons that facilitate draw. Here's the dragons that facilitate ramp and the stuff that doesn't come from a dragon. And here's just like the removal dragons that tend to burn stuff or board wipe, the asymmetry board wipe stuff.
Yeah.
And then it's only the other things that help them, like, oh, well, here's the haste category because it's a sort of a Titan effect in the command zone. But then if you look at something like, I don't know, I had my Jory Endless that I had years ago, right? It's got a lot of categories because Jory End's just like, hey, second spell, draw a card.
Right.
So I'm not sure, I have the draw, I have the ramp, but then there's this other stuff I'm trying to get through.
Yeah. So like thematically, you're like, yeah, I'm going to be doing some spell slinging, but I've decided I've got some different options in terms of the directives I build into this deck.
Yeah. I think there's like one that just says tokens because since I'm rattling spells off so much, I want to produce tokens via fucking Talrand and Alana or whatever the lady's name.
Yeah.
So it doesn't go in those places.
Sure.
Huh. Yeah.
So let me surface some other examples that have been on my mind as I've been thinking through this, right? So, sometimes I hate to be like, I mean, you have to, you can only speak from your experience, or you can speak from your experience better than just theory crafting.
Mm-hmm.
So like my general Marhalt deck, right? So this is a legend that says creatures of yours that get blocked get +3/+3.
Simple flavors.
There is a multi-directive version of this that is, I think, the more commonly seen, which is I've got creatures that people would not like to have to block.
Yeah.
And then I've got lure spells.
Yeah.
That are making them block those creatures.
Right.
So that is a multi-directive version of General Marhalt, right? Where I've got creatures that I'm going to get into combat.
Like death touch.
Yeah, things that have death touch, right? And then I've got these lure spells that make people block them, right? What I chose was a single directive.
Yes.
Creatures that have trample. And yeah, I might be looking for like weird little techie things that they do. Like, okay, so this one also independently gets bigger when it's blocked, not just with General Marhalt.
But it gets real big if it gets blocked.
Yeah, or like this one introduces poison counters through toxic, and then it can proliferate and things like that.
Or this one can't be blocked by creatures power 2 or less. Or
right.
This one gets a land if it deals damage.
Exactly. This one might be my enchant and artifact hate or whatever, but there's a single directive for the deck, creatures with trample, right? And that one, I think, that idea, I think, illustrates why this is so prominently on my mind, because I never fail to participate with my General Marhalt deck.
No.
Because it has a single directive. I can't draw
only the lure cards.
Yeah.
And not a good creature to lure them to.
That doesn't happen to me.
Yeah.
It's only creatures that I want to send. That's all it is. Right. And so it never fails to participate in the game. Like, yeah, people might have a better game. People might play around me, but it will always be a participant.
Because you can't really control that stuff.
Right. And you could do other things to your deck. You could introduce tutors. You could introduce additional card draw.
To connect these bridges together.
To kind of connect the bridges, which I think is an important thing about these multi-directive type decks, right? Another example that really is kind of the origins of this.
I actually don't even think that's a right visual. Like, what is described there isn't a bridge. It's like 2 parallel railways.
That's true, right?
That are without you getting lucky or tutoring them together, they have radically different destinations.
It's true.
Because if all you were able to do is get the lure spells, I think eventually you're going to be forced to put them on the commander, and your options to jam my stuff out of the game doesn't look as good. You're only getting really like the little things.
It's true.
That would just, okay, well, I'm going to block with these. I have to block with that. But these walk away because he doesn't get that big. Right. Wouldn't he be like, what is he, a 6/6?
It's a 4/4 to start, and it'd be get +3 for each. So you'd kill everything that's a 3 or less, right?
Yeah, so you jump up to 7. You'd have to be careful who you attack into, because if I have a total of 7 on damage on my end, it's a weird board wipe.
If you got something that's inherently bigger.
Yeah, it's a 2-card board wipe because you're pulling everybody over into him with the lure card, right? So
the math gets weird.
It just doesn't make sense. Yeah, but there's every once in a while, you'll get both. You'll get the bet'll hit. You'll have a creature that has death touch, trample, and a lure. And that's fucking awesome. That's what most people probably think about. They're like, when this happens, I'm going to nut. Because all 3 of these things are happening.
Yeah, because you've cleared the board. You
dealt 1 to everything.
Yeah.
Did some to their face.
You got damage to their face.
Yeah.
Like, And so I think that is a thing, that it is the lure of multi-directive decks, right?
The lure of the lure decks, multi-directive lure attack lore deck.
So another example that was really kind of the genesis of this thinking with me, and anybody who listens to us or has paid attention to me at all the last year knows that I've kind of had this strange obsession with Hope as Time, which I finally built and sleeved up because I've been obsessed for so long.
Yeah.
But Hope as Time converts life gain into mill for your opponents at the end of your turn.
Right.
So it says that like when your turn ends, it checks how much life you gained and each of your opponents mill that much. There's multiple ways to build this, right?
Oh yeah. Right. This is almost like the same. Yeah.
And I brewed multiple lists.
This is even more acute than the Marholt.
Exactly.
Because of just how much is this, what we're reading from it. Yeah.
Exactly. And so like there's where I landed, which I've done this kind of Soul Sister White Weenie thing where I've got the Soul Sisters that will gain me life seeing creatures enter, particularly my own. And I've got all of these things like Adeline or the Jacked Rabbit or things like that will produce tokens for me on my turn during combat or some other phase, right?
Yeah.
And so we get to the end of turn, it turns it all into mill. I have I take it back. There is one other card in my deck that does mill, and it's just that one that you can play it as a land after it mills one player half their library, and then you can play it as a land.
Oh, wow.
So I just count it as a land in my deck. That's the only thing.
Okay.
But there is a version of it where you could also do just like all exclusively lifelink creatures. And
True.
You're just leaned in on the life gain that way. Or you could do like, hey, I've got a bunch of life gain, but what if I can find all the force magnifiers or the best of mill and try to do that. But again, now you're building multiple directives into your deck.
Yeah.
Right. So there is a version of this where you only draw the mill stuff, and Hope can't really actually do anything with that.
Not so much. No.
Right.
Yeah.
So now you're reliant on just like, okay, I hope this mill stuff in the 99 is banger. I can get to the bottom of my opponent's libraries. So there is a fail in that version of the deck, right? And mine actually does have a fail potentially as well. Like I could draw my White Weenie token producing stuff and never get my Soul Sisters. Right? Like I actually have built a multi-directive version. It is all geared towards life gain.
Yeah.
But it is a multi-directive. I think if I wanted to build a deck that has no fails in it, it's just the lifelink creatures. That's it. There's no fail with that because they'll hope we'll see what all the deck does. Right.
Got it.
And so I don't know, tell me your response to this, because I think that there's a lot of different versions of how this looks. And I want to build some categories through the episode to talk through this, but tell me your thoughts.
Yeah, I think I like this. I like these two as examples. I've done it too. Absolutely. I've done it. I think there's times where I have to do it because of what the commander wants me to do. I don't know if I build a lot of commanders that are completely off the rails, like too bad. I'm not a very good janky deck builder. I don't think. I don't think I build stuff that's all the way up in synergy where it's like on the ceiling of just this is what everybody's doing with it. But there's a couple where I at least has to make sense for me to try it. Where it's like, okay, like the relationship between this idea, the directive of the deck or the strategy, and the commander is enough for me to make it work. And then the other thing I'm looking for is the level of support. And by support, I just mean cards that work this way that exist. So I've made some attempts over the years on things where I'm like, it's just too far out there. So like Goonies, for example, absent tutors. And I think tutors change a lot of what we're talking about a lot. because you can just weld the two railways together and make it work and get to your destination. Goonies, like reassembling skeleton, aren't great on their own, but they fit nicely into a battery of value generating permanents and value generating instants and sorceries and value generating cards that they just feed. They get you there, right? They get you along. They bump you along, right? So if I have, I don't know, Tarian's Journal and a Goonie, I really can just draw a card for 2 mana for every 2 mana I can draw a card.
Yeah.
And then you introduce another layer to this later on where it's like, oh, well, I'm going to add another card to this, like Grim Haruspec. So now I'm drawing 2 cards for 2 mana and I lose 1 life. So it starts to pick up a little bit more value. And then let's add something like, I don't know, a blood artist to it. Well, now someone's coming down in life total. I'm losing less life and drawing the same amount of cards on my turn. Yeah. And then you finalize it with something like fucking Grave Pact. So now all of those things are happening and you finally put the Grave Pact into the equation, and now a lot of shit's dying and a lot of people are losing life and everyone's asking why Grave Pact's not a great game changer. So that's a lot of directives, I suppose, all built around this one card.
Sure.
And every single time there's the danger that you don't draw the right components.
Yes.
There are a lot of Goonies. There's not only just one reassembling skeleton. There's many creatures that can be pulled out of the graveyard with their own ability, but they're all self-contained or something that's very likely to happen. They just return to your hand or return to play.
But even some of them look a little different, right?
The conditions are weird.
Yeah.
Grave Crawler was an amazing one, but you got to control a zombie.
Yeah, the Bloodghast, it's like, okay, I might not be able to capitalize on this one as often as some of the others, right?
Yeah. So, but it's a very simple game action that I should be doing anyway. It'll come back in.
Yeah.
So I've done a ton of decks like this where I have packed so much into it, and I don't think what I said is crazy. Like all of that is absolutely
totally doable.
There's 3 versions of Grave Pact that I can think of. If you have white in your deck, there's 4.
Yeah, there's a bunch of iterations of Grim Haruspec.
Yeah, and then somewhere along the line, you can still do Sun Titan Reanimate Infinite. Like, it has nothing to do with this. So all you need is just the one component. There's plenty of sack outlets. The density's there, I guess.
Yeah.
But because there's so many stages to making this work, I had to abandon it because it worked for a long time as long as I could tutor those last lines between them.
Right.
Or not even really tutor for the infinite, but I need to start converting this into something more. I need to get life, or I need to get more draw or something. Like my hand's low, and I'd rather have a full hand again than one card that I'm going to tutor that Kyle could counter or deal with. I'd rather just reload.
Yeah.
So it worked, but we stripped tutors out of the meta, and now all of this became really
more difficult,
really exposed. So I was like, how do I solve for that at least? Well, maybe a piece of this is in the command zone, so I always have access to it.
Yeah.
So something like Ayara, the triple black chick, she works like now she's right in the middle of everything, draining life. So I can forego these other things and try to get my directives down. I can reduce how many slots I'm eating up for this other life drain thing. It's like, okay, well, she's the only one because I need the rest to always be draw or always be something that's more impactful, because I'm just not consistently hitting it. And even that was difficult. And plus she's basically a black Perfuro. So I really wasn't getting along very well.
No charity.
With the play group. Yeah. You see? So I've fallen into this too. And I'm not saying it's a mistake. Like, this is just deck building. I guess what I'm hoping we're doing today is really trying to get people to think about the likelihood of taking these 2 railroads that have, adjacent destinations, but you need them to be bent into the same destination,
right? Which
is a game-winning engine or a game ending, or it's I guess like either a game ending condition, like a combo or something, or a game-winning engine that if this just keeps going, I'm in really good shape. And it's hard for people to interact with, and I'll whittle them down.
Right. I'm really glad you bring up like the Goonies example where it's kind of complex, right? Like there's a lot of different tools, different directives that you can tinker with along the way. But to get to, like you said, kind of the game-winning momentum piece of it, there's a lot of rails that got to get in parallel.
Yeah, and I maybe this is just me. I get super into stuff like this because here's how it always goes with me, dude. I'm on our Discord or I'm somewhere where people are talking and cards just get thrown out. Like I could, let me just try to throw this off the top of my head. You could introduce more to this same thing. I could say sack outlet. We'll just say, I don't know, fucking just Viscera reassembling skeleton, Sibsig ceremony, and let's say what's the one the one where it's an artifact. If a creature comes into play, you have to bounce another creature, right? Cloudstone Curio,
yeah,
and Ravenous Chupacabra. Like somebody could already imagine, like, this is really fucking annoying. He can Chupacabra for 2, destroy something, pull his thing back to his hand.
Just keep cycling
Cloudstone
through this.
Like, it's just fucking crazy. Or maybe it's just the commander in the zone. I think at one point I had Cloudstone Curio, Reassembling Skeleton, Gonti as my commander, and a sack outlet, and it was just a way for me to bounce and continually recast Gonti through that.
And then you can also imagine, like, you get a Cabal Coffers Urborg set up in your mono black deck, and you can do a ton of cycles of this whole thing.
We have a word for this. It's Christmas Land Magic.
Yeah.
I get super into, like, that is a really cool setup, and I will be recognized as the one who is smart if I put it all together in front of somebody, even though no one gives a fuck. No one fucking cares.
I do bring my portable printer with a certificate template ready to go.
Yeah, and it prints off. You are recognized as, it's like a dot plot printer, the one, and then it jams. Yeah, I get super into this, but just the consistency is why maybe a lot of stuff like might just come out on the goldfish, right? You go out and you're like, yeah, baby. You go make the list. You put it together. You start goldfishing. And then you come back to where you got the information and you're complaining it's just not happening. I'm just not seeing the consistency. Yeah, right? And then I have to just abandon it. And that comes to focus real fast with us because, we just can't get into our libraries with our friends. So it's got to have a higher level of redundancy, consistency, critical mass, whatever you want to call it, where I've got to have this on top of the fucking stuff you always need, which is draw and ways to get mana out of your library and get it into play so you can keep up with the pace of the fucking crazy cards they keep printing. All of that still has to happen on top of it, dude.
It's true.
And so now you're looking at things where, like, well, I could just do Knight's Whisper, but the way I've built this silly deck, I probably need it to be something like a Callous Blood Mage, and I choose draw a card once. I draw less, but I need to fit into the engine better.
It's true. I think this is a thing that entrenched Magic players are all really attracted to, right? Is like these plays, these multi-directive type things. I mean, I described to you my General Marhault thing.
Yeah.
And I kind of downplay it when I talk to people because it's so simple.
Yeah.
But that's actually, it's not a bad thing as a Magic player to do it.
I love that deck because of its simplicity.
Right.
I go, yeah, man, it's a 1/1. What is it? Well, it's a 1/1 with trample. And if I block it, it becomes a 4/4. And I don't have a 5/5. So I think I just take it.
Here it is. You get it.
You just get it. And you're like, well, cool. I have Toski, so I draw cards. But you were going to draw that fucking card anyway.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think, like, there is this side of, and I think this is what I want to, I hope, illuminate through the conversation here today, is that, like, there are some situations where the theme, it is a necessary evil that you have a multi-directive
100%
thing built into your deck. It just has to be that way to play it. There are some others where I think we have options. Like, you know, I mean, I've illustrated some already. I can go down to fewer directives in some cases, and I still get to experience the deck. Maybe I'm not going to have that magical Christmas land moment with it, but
I can't bust the dot plot printer out and print your certificate.
Right,
off.
Get that certificate for you. But it's going to be a solid deck that I know always plays. And then I think that another thing that I hope manifests through this is that, and I think I see this in the Discord, people will be talking about they have a particular deck and they've been swapping commanders out and in. because they're trying to find kind of that power level balance that they want, or maybe they're trying to find that consistency that they need. Because I think, like in some cases, we'll find commanders that are illustrative of the fact that, they're the lubricant between you succeeding at a multi-directive deck. They are going to facilitate it happening.
Defining succeeding is you do your thing.
Yeah, you didn't
just sit here
you execute
and I
on the
don't
plan.
hear from you. I never drew a.
Yes.
We don't hear that out of your mouth when we end the game.
Exactly.
I never drew my astral slide. Typically, your astral slide in your 5-color cycling deck.
Right. Exactly.
Where none of that is connected back to the commander.
So let's talk about, let's kind of move into these a little bit. I will confess to the listener, Andy and I feel like my idea was a little harebrained. So Andy and I had to have some like pre-game conversation here a little bit.
Yeah.
And so
an hour and a half podcast before our podcast.
Yeah. So some of this may get adapted as we talk because I'm massaging some of my notes around a new way of thinking here a little bit.
Around Andy. Yeah.
But like, I want to hold on these, what I'm going to call conversion commanders. Somebody in the Discord pointed out that isn't this what all commanders do, is they convert one thing into another?
I'd agree.
Which I think that's an accurate description. You are right. And so, but I think some more obviously.
Yeah, let's get the dot plot printer out for that person. You are recognized as the one, and then it jams.
Fucking paper, dude. But I want to talk about these conversion commanders that I think are maybe a little more obvious. And there's a scale on these. Hope S Time, I think, was my best poster child version of this, of like, we're converting the life gain theme into the mill theme.
Yeah.
Another one that I've kind of had on mind with this has been Fennec's God of Deception, that basically says all your creatures have a tap ability of tap.
Mill. Yeah.
Sticking with mill for some reason, right? But we're converting the existence of big butt creatures in my deck into being able to mill myself or opponents, right? And so this one, I think I've played Fennex in the past.
Yes.
It did kind of become a little bit multi-directive because you can start building combos around in these colors. You can do like, you can build the Blood Crank if you want to, just out of the 99. You don't even necessarily have to have stuff happening with your butt stuff that's going on in your deck.
Yeah.
Like it may tip things off, but it's, the Blood Crank thing. So then you start kind of like, you might see some other things that are a side trip away from the mill, but you also can just lean into everything's butts. I got to where in the end, like all of my ramp was creatures that had
some kind of
toughness to them.
Yeah.
Like
this was before Poo Poo UFO.
Yeah, exactly. And so like doing all that kind of shit. I'm trying to think, like I was kind of postulating to you that some of the Niv Mizzets might fit in this like conversion thing, right? Where
draw to damage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Instance into source or instance into draw.
And like if there's a simplest version of, like a Niv Mizzet Perun, you could just be really focused on a lot of wheel spells, draw stuff. I'm curious for you with that one though, like how multi-directive do you feel like you got that thing to be? Because obviously now you're seeing spell casting.
That's true.
So it's a little different than maybe the previous versions of Niv Mizzet. But how multi-directive do you feel like that thing got? Because it's converting one thing into a damage output is my contention.
Maybe this is where I would support that sometimes it's required. So we'll say that General Marhault, I think you've proven, at least to our play group, that I guess we're assuming that those things are required, I guess, with General Marhault. It is something you absolutely could do. It's kind of in the text box of, hey man, when they block, these guys get big.
Yeah.
So we naturally go there, at least the community has gone there with like, well, then I want people to block. So how can I make them block? Well, it turns out green does this.
Yeah.
It has a lot of cards that do this. So it's not something that is really said, but we kind of just landed there as a community. And then you will say, well, no, I'm just going to make things just not attractive to block by themselves, and trample's the best keyword for such a thing.
Yeah.
Size and trample and block is just not something that people do. They'll just take it. So yeah. Where cards like this are concerned, like Niv Mizzet, yeah. If maybe he's a little kind of a little bit of a cheat, because if all you do is draw and he's around to see it, you will do a ton of damage. I mean, that's kind of like his well-known combo, right? Is the Curiosity combo.
Yeah.
Where you deal damage equal to your library size to however many targets or people or whatever. And you pull the whole thing into your hand, and then you just win because you drew so much. So if you have the appetite to do anything with like a Labman style effect, then you actually just win right in the face of everybody.
Yeah.
So maybe he is actually more kind of like Hope Estime, where all of this other stuff is just not necessary. Any other triggers that say, hey, whenever you draw a card, do this. They really only should be treated as a backup to him, where if somebody's like imprisoned him in the moon or something where he's so out of reach, you're like, well, if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'll still get there with the Psychosis Crawler or Niv Mizzet 1.0. Right?
Yeah.
So I land in a space, though, where there is probably a lot of people who are running Spellslinger style cards where the permanent cares about you casting an instant or sorcery because you just so happen to be casting an instant or sorcery a lot with him around because he wants you to, and because the colors want you to. The best draw in red is will spells. If you're just talking about the word draw, you get a lot of cards into your hand if you just wheel and pick them up and just kind of ignore what you're doing for your opponents. And some of the best blue spells are instants or sorceries to draw if you're not thinking about Rhystic Study. Yeah.
It's true. And there's a difference between Perun and like the previous ones, right? Because Perun's kind of asking you to do instants and sorceries or, casting spells, right? Mm-hmm. And like the conversion's a little different there.
Yeah. I guess where I ended up with it was a wheels deck, and it did have a thing I really don't like saying, but it had a moderate directive of achieving omniscience. Because my thought is if I don't have to pay the cost for the wheels, like wheeling anything into your hand when you don't have to, doing anything with no mana cost is going to probably win you the game, but not every time, where it's like, if it's the only thing you did was became omniscient and you just gas out, like, is a mana geyser for 37 mana any different than going omniscient for a turn if you shoot it and you just empty your hand and then we just go cool? But a mana geyser with a ton of will spells, and you get more and more and more information back into your hand, and you collapse your hand and then draw more into your hand, like that starts to look a little different to me. Am I making sense?
I think so. Where like there's in the line of like a maybe traditional Spellslinger where you've got the mana geyser turn, like that's all hitting what Niv Mizzet's asking for, whereas the Omniscience play is a little bit of a side quest directive that will be beneficial in the same way as a mana geyser, right? But
I guess the way I looked at it is that it is a win condition.
Yeah.
Because if I achieve Omniscience or Dream Halls or Jin 3.0's backside, because of the nature of the deck and because the commander stays in play, I don't have to make that many. I'm not really that far away from where I was anyway. And it really just goes, all right, well, I'm going to just go for this whole thing, and you're just going to see me resolve spells and take damage because I don't have to pay the mana cost. And that like the greatest consistency of the deck was draw and wheel. Yeah. So it's going to be a lot. And so you guys would go, okay, like we'll just give it to him. Like we already know where this is going to go. And I think you get a shorter cut if you do Arjun as your commander. Sure. Arjun is like the Dream Halls and Omniscience commander if you really want to do it. Oh, sure, because
it's just like exposure.
He's always that half of the equation. Like you don't need to find your will spells. And there's a fuck ton between those two now. I don't even, like the consistency is so high with those, but it's always there. You're like, I don't really actually care so much about what I'm casting with Arjun because I don't have to pay the mana. Like him and Dream Halls are nuts. And then as soon as you pick up a drawing doubling effect, like Teferi's something, it just spins the fuck out. So I guess to answer your question,
so
it felt like when every time I mess around with something like this, it feels like I need two directives. I can't just get there with the wheels by themselves.
There's other things necessary.
I guess. I don't know. Maybe you can. Because after so many wheels, we're all decked. Like, what is it? 12 of them? You're done? Like,
yeah.
We can only suffer 12 to 13 depending on how much draw people have done.
Yeah, you only need so much,
before
right?
Everybody's out. And you've decked yourself, and it's just like a weird suicide style thing, or you lab man. So it just felt like I needed to do two things with that. Which it just did.
So let's zoom out a little bit, because in the case of any of the Niv Mizzets, you're also pairing card draw in the zone with whatever conversion is happening here, right? Like,
yeah.
Which I think is actually relevant to this idea of if you want to build something multi-directive, right? It's going to feel easier in a case where your commander's giving you draw.
A reward for doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the reward is draw, right? Like you have your odds of finding your directives are higher.
True.
Right? Like that's just the case, right? Like I like that you bring up the example, the alternative of Arjun, where like, you know, with that reminder of whenever you cast a spell, put the cards in your hand on the bottom of your library in any order, then draw that many cards.
Yeah.
So
really time intensive.
Just a wheel in your zone, right? So this one is just kind of like, hey, we're trying to have exposure to the library, but then that means you probably got to pick out what your directives are underneath Arjun.
Yeah,
right?
You really do.
And in this case, it's giving you card exposure to do that. There were some others that people gave in the Discord. This is a conversation that we had in our Will of the Council channel as well. I was trying to get some people's ideas from this, and obviously we've kind of taken a departure a little bit from the original prompt.
Yeah,
but what do you think of? Like, let's think about this in reverse, because one that I'm trying to puzzle over a little bit is Eivor Kissed by Wolves.
Okay.
And so this one's kind of a little reverse direction here in terms of the conversion that we're seeing.
Right.
So when this one has Trample and Haste, it's a 7/6.
Jeez.
And it says whenever Eivor not kissed by wolves, wolf kissed, deals combat damage to a player, you mill that many cards. You may put a saga card and or a land card from among them onto the battlefield.
All right.
And so in this case, it's just like, we just need to get in and we'll continue to accumulate more resources as a result of Eivor going.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know what the saga thing looks like in these colors for just increasing size.
For Naya.
For Eivor on here, but this is another one I've been trying to puzzle my way over a little bit. It's pretty directly telling us it'll get you sagas and lands.
Yeah. And do both if you get both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Doesn't it say and or?
And or.
Yeah.
So this one is one where, again, maybe not quite like Hope S Time, but it does feel like I could build a deck where I try to get Eivor bigger.
Yeah.
Through whatever means. I could be like, okay, I'm going to use equipment. So now I've got this equipment directive, this saga directive, and having enough lands to always hit my lands on this as well. So Eivor gets bigger. We have a bigger mill push. We've got more options to play. Or do you just lean in like, I'm just going to lean on the fact I got a 7/6 with Trample and Haste.
Yeah, that's not a joke.
And probably harvest something every time I go.
Yeah.
Like, this is one I've been puzzling a little bit, where it is converting an action from our commander, but into resources on the other side.
Yeah.
It's very different from these other ones I'm talking about, but I'm kind of puzzling over this idea a little bit. And I'm curious your thought.
Maybe, and this is just coming to me now, so this is probably a stupid thing to say while we're recording, but I remember, and he was 5 colors, so it's probably not even really a fair comparison, but Golos, right? With ETB, you'd grab a land and bring it into your hand or put it into play. It was basically like just a cracked card. Like there was just, it just had too much going for it. And it had this crazy activation where you just start ripping cards off the top of your library. But I think the real big issue was the fact that it went and got you a land.
Any land.
I bet if I went looking at this commander's page, I bet there's a focus on sagas, and I would support that if there are a battery of sagas or enough to get your game along without this attack trigger.
Yeah.
Like sagas that get you lands, sagas that get you cards, sagas that just get you where you need to be in a commander game that is just the marathon, right? Like, do they give you the endurance that you need to get through a game of commander? I suspect that there are, because we've seen it kind of work with Garnet's, and she's less colors than this.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about some that already exist that mill you even more, right? From the Final Fantasy set, because they're both creatures and sagas. So I'm betting there is a solid deck with this where sagas are the focus, because you're like, man, I just get so much if I hit a saga.
Like one of the top ones is Summon Titan, right?
Right.
Like that's
mills even more.
Fits in like every range of this, right?
It mills you even more. But there's probably another version of this where you are focused on playing lands from graveyard, because there is a lot of effects now that do this more than ever, I think. Like for the longest time, we only had like one way to do that. And now I think we have north of 5 ways to play lands from yard.
Yeah.
So not only are you just getting it with your commander, but you're starting to assemble like the most annoying lands in the world.
True.
Like, I don't know, the Glacial Chasm, like you can just stop attacking or let it go to graveyard on your turn and then swing with her.
Then bring it back.
And then use your stupid Ice Tiller to bring it back. And there's a bunch of ways to do this, but the danger exists, I think, when you're going to try to do both. I think unless the sagas are very land focused and let you do something that involves, or they're just so commandery, right? Like, well, this is a saga that exiles something on ETBs. Okay, fine. Like I won't push back on that. Like that's just too good to. You're going to need that stuff anyway, so why not let it be a saga?
Yeah.
You see? So I think there is another danger here where you have too many directives. It probably would just be only sagas, and I think you'll be okay. I would just caution that like they need to be sagas that are very they're very forward in what they're doing. You know, this will get me more stuff. This will get me more cards. This will tear down my opponent's stuff. I kind of, maybe I'm just becoming very distilled into those 3 categories as a late stage commander player, but I'm doing it via sagas. Leave me alone. I'm already being a silly. People can run Swords of Plowshares in their deck. You could still run it here, but like my version of this will be, what is it? The Elsbeth, whatever, when she comes down and exiles a 4 CMC or greater saga, and then it blows a bunch of shit up or whatever, or Yojimbo. Like that's, I'm doing what everyone else is doing, and I'm just doing it through the synergy that this commander is asking me to do. I have Garnet maybe.
Sure.
If like the stuff that cares about counters, I don't know. Like there's just so many hooks. Even with this thing, I can't even stop talking about it. I'm like babbling.
It's interesting because like I think this leads us into another form of commanders that might induce this multi-directive thing, right? Yeah. So we have these conversion ones, and I think when they're at their simplest, something like Hope Has Time, there is a path to kind of distill yourself down to a minimal directive plan, right? Some of them might entice us into other things, right? And that might be valid where, like Niv Mizzet's kind of converting spell slinging into cards and damage. And because card draw's part of it, you just kind of fall into you're going to fall into doing more directives, right? And
And the only way you break the sound barrier is the only thing in your way is the mana. So I guess maybe that's what I was going for. Is like, it's the only thing holding me back is how many actions I can take. It's not the draw. It's not even the damage. All of that's working.
Yeah.
It's just, I can't do it forever because I don't have infinite mana. Well, there it is.
I'll
shut it off with omniscience or dream holes.
And then I think this exploration with Ivor, like, I think there are some where it's converting it into resources. It itself is already kind of doing the damage for you.
That command is wild.
But this one I think points us towards rewards that commanders can do. And I think these ones in particular, and this is the bulk of Legends, right? Like I was just doing a search on Scryfall of is commander and says the word whenever in its text
Holy
box.
Shit.
And there's 1,500 plus legal legends that say whenever, which is
some kind of trigger. Yeah.
Is a hook, right? Like that is a hook that's giving you rewards, and those rewards might be their own hook.
Sure.
Right. And I think these ones that reward you with something, which is again, going back to the listener saying, don't all commanders convert something into something. There's the evidence. That word whenever shows up a lot.
Yeah.
These ones I think can maybe rightfully or wrongfully induce us into a multi-directive build.
Yeah.
Sometimes again, qualifying, there's some strategies that are necessarily multi-directive, right? And then there's some where maybe we could simplify. One that you and I were talking about was Rin and Seri Inseparable.
Yeah.
So as a reminder with this one, it's the dog cat that gives us whenever you cast a dog, you get a cat token. Whenever you cast a cat, you get a dog token.
Right.
And then you have the activation where you gain life for your
cats and deal damage for your dogs. Yeah. Is it an activation?
It is an activation. Sorry, my thing auto corrected me. It's run and Seri. It's you pay Naya and tap it to deal damage to any target equal to the number of dogs you control, and you gain life equal to the number of cats you control.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So on the surface, there's two directives: cast cats,
cast dogs.
Cast dogs. Or
it's a lot like your life gain mill chick, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. It honestly is, right? Like you kind of feel like you could do both. Or we can kind of look at...
You cast changelings and get both.
There we go. Let's do the changelings thing. That probably works, right? And that's probably what people are doing. You were kind of pointing out, let's take the cue from that activation. Well, gaining life's not going to win you the game in and of itself.
Right.
But damage will. So the damage is based off of the dogs.
Yeah.
So is there something we can do to maximize the dogs on the battlefield?
Yeah.
And,
I
because
think you serve both if you cast a cat.
Yes.
Like if I cast the dog, I'm only dealing damage. If I cast a cat, I'm getting the life and I'm dealing the damage.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so now this might introduce some other directives because we're in colors where we can do the token doubling.
True.
Right. So, but you're not screwed if you don't find the token doubling. You got to be careful with watering things down. Right.
Yeah.
But if you do cats and dogs and token doublers, now you've got 3 directives in your deck. Is that going to work to be able to do that? Or if we go like Andy's saying, let's just do the cats and the token doublers.
And yeah, probably the dogs that make the best sense.
And the dogs that make the best sense.
Like there's some that's they'll get you lands, or some that you can, right. It's a cast trigger.
Yeah.
Right. There's who let the dogs out, or whatever the name of that card is. It gets you 4 dogs for 4 mana. So that's 4 damage to any target from there forward. Like there's stuff that practically makes sense.
Right.
I guess just, one of the best pieces of advice I got when I graduated was, it came from my dad. He's like, Andy, you can do anything. You just can't do everything.
Yeah.
I can't do anything, but I for sure can't do everything.
That's for sure.
And I feel like we can get lost in the sauce quick with, you just get married to the idea of something and you like won't back off of it.
Yeah.
And I find I get married to the idea of the possibility of something happening. Like the ones I've described earlier in this episode. Like I was so into these things. It would feel so good for me. It was something I was after. Some people just get really stuck on the art, I guess. Like I just like dogs. If you like dogs, then yeah, right? Like then you'll do a lot of damage, I suppose.
Yeah.
But there's the Quasili Pride Slinger or whatever. There's just so many fucking crazy cats, dude. Like there's just so many. Like there are. Nazan will go grab you that fucking hammer and bring it right into play and you can slap it on Siri. Like I don't know if you should ignore that. Miri is pretty wild too when you're trying to go into combat for stuff. So I'm just a little, and if that's what you're about, that's fine. Like that's not an optimization conversation. That's an experience conversation. And then as a podcast, like I just don't feel like I don't know how to make an episode for somebody for their experience.
Yeah.
Because that's all aesthetic. That's all interpersonal. You know, maybe that person, you know, their grandparents raised basset hounds and they remember running around in the backyard as an 11-year-old and just laying down and this wave of basset hounds just would flop all over them and they just love that. And therefore they just love dogs. Like I can't quantify that as a person who's trying to talk about strategy and talk about a deck advice. I can't go there. So if that's where you're at and that's why you're like, no, I'm going to stick with this, then that's great. That's for you. I'm just trying to help you have more of a consistent game and be an active participant through the marathon and sprints that is these Commander games a little bit. So just thinking about what you can do anything, but like you can't do everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Is my thing here, where it might not make sense to do both. We probably were better off leaning in and going like, okay, what typal synergies come off of, I name a creature type and they all get this.
Yes.
And if I'm off that, I basically abandon all of those cards when I do that. I don't love changelings because they kind of cheapen everything down to just whatever.
It's a thing you could do.
I know I'm saying that right in the face of what I just said, you know?
Yeah.
So I haven't checked the dog support or the cat support lately. They're not kindreds I'm super interested in doing myself, so I'm not really up to speed with that. But changelings are both. It's a good move. Yeah. It's just a good move to do it if you're looking for an optimization piece. I'm kind of in the middle. I'm like, I like to pick one and this is where we're going.
Yeah.
Versus I'm going to try to do everything. You remember like a long time ago, Kim had made that deck that was Krenko.
Oh, right.
And she had Gutter Snipe in the deck because it's like, well, he's a goblin.
It's a goblin.
And immediately I'm just like, this is just not the goblin for you though. Like it's all it is a goblin.
She's like, I just need bodies. And you're like,
and if she looked me in the face and said, well, I'm going to cast a lot of instants and sorceries that make goblin tokens. Back then I would have been like, well, how many are there? Now I'd have to revisit that. It might be okay. I don't know.
Sure.
Because what matters to me is the likelihood of it happening.
Yeah.
And if it's crazy and far-fetched and the odds are pretty good, like not maxed out, absolute certainty, like your Prosper deck. Prosper just is so well supported with a million different things in this game right now. There's a million different triggers and a million different amplifiers and a million different ways to facilitate this dude that like you can just roll your eyes into the next fucking dimension when they cast a roaming throne and name Tiefling or whatever, because well, sure, why not? Like that, I'm not over there either. I don't want anyone to hear me and say, oh, Andy only cares about maximum deck optimization. You know,
no,
if you're like, so if you're like, hey man, last I looked, bro, there's actually a lot of instants and sorceries that make goblins.
But I think
I might be dumb enough to follow along for a while.
Yeah, and I think the thing here, if we can like pause and zoom out of the conversation a little bit, is that like I think sometimes when because we're all deck tinkerers, right? We're trying to find that like that golden mean, that like nice spot to sit where it plays well with the group of people we play with, and I feel good about how it's playing when I sit down and play it, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes the solution is it the commander? Sometimes it's like, do I have it balanced right? Do I have enough mana available? Do I have enough card draw available? I think this is another axis that you should check. Do you have too many directives in your deck.
Yeah.
Because you might have room to simplify the number of directives that you have.
And maybe there's different ways to go about it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, let me throw another wrench at us, and this didn't really come up in our other conversation. So, like, today, I'm talking with Chris. The CEO of our company has like these like summits that he does, and he goes off for like many hours talking about stuff, and we kind of just like hooked up this thing where like we could talk while we were. It's like, you know, like general conference style stuff for like people like you and me when we were kids.
Like the big wigs are talking.
So we're sitting there listening, and a lot of it's just like really, you know, it doesn't apply directly to us. It's just like neat, you know. Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
But of course, we're going to talk about Magic. We're pathetic. So we get into it, and he's like, "Oh, hey, look at this Karlach deck. I want to try to make."
Yeah.
I'm like, Karlach. So it's Karlach, roaming agent of the Iron Throne is the background.
Okay.
And I'm looking through this list, and it's clearly trying to create this damned if you do, damned if you don't situation where if he swings out on you, if you don't block, I mean, you're going to have to deal with that creature again. And if you do block, it's got first strike now because she gives everything first strike.
Sure.
And you're going to take the damage from the background.
Okay.
It's, you know, the crash out aristocrats thing, right?
Yeah.
Is I think what he was going for. And I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, the directive is simple. It's just, I'm going to attack.
Yeah, whenever you attack.
But the commander just doesn't help this at all, to my mind.
Yeah, so it reads out, if it's the first combat phase of the turn, untap all attacking creatures. They gain first strike until end of turn. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase.
Yeah, they get the first strike on the second round or whatever. Yeah. And I'm sitting here screaming at him after, dude, he would not budge on this. I'm like, this deck, I normally don't do this. I rarely look at deck and go, different commander. When people come looking for help, I usually kind of go, yeah, this is a lot to set up, or this is kind of like, you know, I don't know. I probably balance some stuff. I don't bother with the pick a different commander thing.
Sure.
But he's my friend, and I'm like, here's what you're up against. You will always be playing against me every game. I'm like the one constant. So really, if you want to meta game anybody, it really should be me.
Yeah.
I just run a lot of ways to sweep your board, Chris, and you're not giving me any fucking choice. And he would not come off this. He's like, well, yeah, but then you'll lose life. And I'm like, I don't fucking care.
Better now than later.
I'm not going to let you have two combats. You're not making it hard for me. Am I like, are you following me at all? And he's just not listening, dude. He wants to marry this chick. I'm like, go have your sex scene with her in the game then. I'm going to kill her. Every time.
Yeah.
And it ain't just going to be me. If Kyle can, he'll do it. And if Brad can, he'll do it. And if Tiff can.
I'm going to put her in the O-ring, dude.
You'll either imprison her and then going to turn into a fucking bug. And then what? Right? So I'm just saying like what you're up against. And I'm like, but let's take this for a second and just switch it to Garna, Bloodfist of Keld. Now what do? If I board you, I take the damage just like I would with Karlach.
But you can get them back.
And if I block with you, you draw cards.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, what am I supposed to do? And also she's not just a screamer in the zone. You and Brad might not have an attitude about her too much. She'll be like, I don't really super care about what's going on. He seems to be attacking Andy because he knows Andy's going to clear him eventually. So I'm good. But Karlach's a different story. True. You're like, I don't know if I like this because he's got this creature that every time he attacks, it brings out 2/1/1 tapped an attacking creature, and his board state keeps growing and growing and growing because he's mining the right abilities. He's mining the right things that like every creature has an on attack ability. It's like an Ishin Jr., I guess, a little bit, you know? So I was sitting here just like, I wanted to grab him by the fucking ears because he just kept going back to, but you lose life either way. I don't care. I'll be okay.
It's less life than you getting to do this.
If you have more combat, I was like, let's just simply only do Karlach, Chris. I take 10 from her by herself if you're allowed to swing out. If I just kill her, I take 1. You're like solving this for me a little bit. If it's Garna though, if I block, you reload.
Yeah.
And if it's more of what you just threw at me, you'll probably be okay.
True.
So he's completely waifuing this chick. Like that's his problem. Like he can't fucking come off of it because he wants another D&D commander and Garna's not that. And I'm like, okay, dude, but like this is the devil telling you the devil's business. I'm the devil and I'm telling you the devil's business. Don't guess. I'm not even trying to help you guess. I'm telling you what I'm going to do. you know? And I started listing off decks. I was like, this won't be a problem. This won't be a problem. None of I won't have a problem with Karlach. If you draw cards though, and you just keep rubber banding your game back into your hand, you'll actually probably outlast me. The card balance, I'm going to run out of cards before you do. And that's when you're in a good spot.
Okay. This is illuminating another thing that I hadn't really thought about coming into this, right? But like, because we all do this, right? Where we'll pick out.
Is that tangential to what we're talking about?
No, but here's what I'm getting at. Because what's the solution?
It's just that his directive isn't being helped by the way he set it up. And if he just simply switched the commander, I'm like, this deck's fine. I actually don't know what to do now.
Well, because to me, there's two options here, right? And what you're describing is he's now alerted to, okay, my game plan's not going to stay intact very easily. So what do I need to do? I need to add another directive, which is protection for my commander.
Which he had a ton of that.
To the deck.
Well, I can give her I'm like, that's an if. That's an if. He had a bunch of the rubber bandy, they gain indestructible, or the scam cards. He had a bunch of those.
So
it's further away
that's
from
a
what you
whole
need.
package of cards that doesn't push you towards the end game, right? Mm-hmm. Or he can do like what you're describing of like, pick something that's less offensive. And now you don't have to have that package in your deck.
Yes.
You can just do your thing.
Yeah.
And I think this isn't something I had thought about, but I think this is a really good example of
Dude, it felt like I was trying to get him to divorce his wife. He was not listening to me at all. He wants, then go boot up the game, Kyle. Boot it up. She'll put out fast. It's fine. But I won't put out ever. I will never let you do it. I will sit there and I said like, I'm like, I don't know if you know if you know this, Chris, but I mulligan for wipes when I need to. I'll take a look and I'll be like, okay, clearly people have picked things. Yeah, I don't have the pace. I know I don't have the pace. I'm going to go get the other thing.
Yeah, Andy's
I'm the worst, dude. I'm the worst.
Chris is going to put his arm around you and you're like, it's my time of the month.
But what do you want me to do? You want to get your red wings with me? You're not going to. It's not the time of the month right now. Maybe next week. If I have the pace, I won't do that stuff. I'll be like, I can do this. I'll be all right. You know, meaning like, what I mean is like, I will likely be able to either block effectively or I'll just kind of bring it back to you and I can crack you back. Okay.
Sure.
But some of my decks are just not capable of such a thing.
So they're provisioned.
So like Bruna, she's so late into the game before I start doing my thing.
Yeah.
And I have such a high density of ways to clear. I'll be okay.
Yeah.
He'll hurt me real bad, but 1 is not 0. I'll live.
Yeah.
And I will tear all that shit down.
Yeah. 1 is not 5 for sure.
I will tear it all down. But with Garna, it gets a little trickier because if I block him or anything like that, he'll just replace it all. And then here's the sick fucking part. He can give Garna infect in response to me clearing and he can just win on the spot.
Oh,
because she deals damage. So as long as he has 10 creatures.
That's a good point.
The 11th being her, he'll be like, all right, well, in response to Andy's board wipe. And I'm like, so you're walking me right to where you want to take me. You can't do that with this other chick.
Yeah.
I mean, you could probably give her infect and swing twice unblocked.
Sure.
But you see? So what I did is I booted up the decks side by side. I cloned one and then swapped out I didn't clone it. I booted the decks up, started a goldfish, cleared it, tutored the cards. So every time I draw over here, I would tutor for the other. So I'm having exactly the same game experience. I'm sharing the screen with him. The CEO dude's just babbling about AI some more. And I'm showing him step by step on how far this is going to veer off, right?
Yeah.
And then we got to the turn where you draw your first card with Garna, right? Okay. I'm like, so I attack with Conrad. And I asked him, what do you think's going to happen? I'm going to attack with Conrad. Do you think somebody blocks to kill Conrad? You know? Right. And he's like, yeah, somebody's definitely going to block and he's going to die. Okay. So bing, I get a card. And it completely veered in 2 different directions from there. Because now I don't know what's happening with the deck ananymore. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to stop tutoring with this one. Because I'd go and look up the card that we drew with the other. You're visualizing it, right? So I'd go and we veered off. And by the time we were 3 turns later, that Garna deck had a full fucking grip. And that other one was out. It was down to a board wipe and no board state. And he's like, I just shoot my board wipe. And I'm like, you probably have to now. You're so far behind everybody.
Yeah.
Where Garna, I could move into combat. And at some point I drew Goblin Bombardment, which is, this is the Karlach deck. This is not the Garna deck. This is the Karlach deck. At some point we drew Goblin Bombardment and I'm like, I'm taking it from here. I'm going to attack and then I'm going to sack in the middle of combat and draw the motherfucking cards anyway and ping shit out or ping somebody's life total down. I'm like, I just feel like this is humming. Somebody's probably screaming at me right now being like, what's card draw in the zone, motherfucker? Of course. My point is that like his directive, which is far away from draw and removal and whatever, it's really just like damned if you do, damned if you don't combat.
Sure.
It's not really helped by this commander. It all worked just fine. The deck wasn't optimized for Garna by any means.
Sure, but there was a way that it played.
It just quickly fit over because it kind of became a Hope S-Time situation fast. It was like, as long as I have this half of the deck, which is creatures that like to attack .deck, I'll probably be okay because this thing does the burn when it's not in combat and does the draw when it is. So
this holds up, I think, a really good point in this like category of reward for your directives, right?
Yeah.
Because I think you're right. Like people are screaming, it's obvious Garna gives you card draw, right? But I do think that if you were trying to build multiple directives into a deck, that's one of the right rewards.
Yeah, I don't
right?
know. I hope this episode's not making me sound like I'm Mr. Optimal McOptimal. I'm really not. But it's such an uphill fight. And I'm like, it's not that you can't pull it off with her. That he showed me some like combos and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that is pretty wild. But it's a matter of like if and when it's going to happen. And I'm like, bro, she can be in the 99. And if you must have that enchantment, I guess that can be in the 99 also. Yeah. Although it probably should just be a creature that does it. So I don't know, dude. It was one of those moments where I felt like they're married to the thesis. They're trying to defend a thesis with me, and I'm not trying to poke holes. I'm legit the devil telling them the devil's business. Yeah. And because they don't want to listen, right?
Which is fair. Like, go ahead and find out, right?
Yeah, you know how many like you remember like I got divorced was back in 2012 when all that went down. And then I got off the market for like 3 years. I didn't mess with anybody for a while. I was just really in not a good headspace for a long time, trying to get my life in a track that I wanted to be on. And then I'm like, I'm going to go out and start dating, but I'm not going to do it like I did before. I am just going to be as clear about what my objectives are with this thing as possible. Down to just the we both know, and let's not pretend. Like, I'm not going to pretend.
Yeah.
You know why I'm here. I know why you're here. I know what you would prefer that we do, and you know what I want to do. Where is the middle ground between the two? I remember having that conversation with a couple chicks, and I would say that this is the devil telling you the devil's business. I'm not any different than the next guy that's gonna come. Like, what we're into and how we go about it might be different, you know?
Sure.
Like he might be this guy about what other things. And if that matters, then that's a difference. That's just a difference, right? You want to pick that person.
Yeah.
But when it comes to these like things, I'm pretty sure, dude, I'm pretty fucking sure this is how it's gotta be, at least for me.
Yeah.
You know, that's all it is. And I'm like, and then I would look at her, I'm like, now you be the devil and tell me your bit, like the devil's business. Tell me what you're after. And some of them would just be like, you know, one of them was like very clear. She's like, yeah, you're not religious enough for me. You're just not.
Like, okay.
Right. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I'm not. Like, I can see that. I can see how important it is to you and how putting it's going to be and whatever. And we just got there quickly and it was like, okay.
Yeah. Like,
and that was it.
These two directives can't exist in the same deck. So let's move on.
Let's just move on. We can't both do it. I can't be into you painting your legs yellow and walking all over my face at night and then go to church tomorrow. I don't know how we do that.
Here we go.
I don't know how we do that. You know?
I like that example though with Garna.
Didn't work with Chris though. He still wants, he's just like, he's going to do it anyway. Yeah.
With Garna and Karlak though, like, I mean, he'll find out, right? He'll have to adjust something, right? Like, and
he kept saying, I know you're right. And I'm like, okay,
do your thing.
So
sometimes you just got to experience it. Sometimes you just, I know that's like not your thing. There's a lot of us that are just like, I know it's a mistake, Andy.
It's true.
I'm going to do it.
It's true. It's true. I almost did want to. I should have said that. Dude, if I could fuck you like Karlak, I would right now, okay? Just to get you to not do this. But I can't. All I can do is tell you how you're going to beat my decks.
Okay, I want to look at one other like reward example that got brought up in the Discord.
What a tangent, sorry.
No, but I do like that because I think there's it's not just the directives, right? Like there's the commanders and they just don't support it. They don't support it. What you want from the deck is just not getting there. Yeah, sometimes that is the thing, is picking the commander for it.
Yeah.
I'll bring up an example in a minute, but I want to do this last one in this kind of like rewards category. It's a
very Chris thing.
It is
to try to force something that's like, dude, you are trying to make an apple and orange, and it's not going to happen.
I did kind of learn a little bit from like, because Chris, I think, went and did like the Heroes Blade vibe check recently, and like Cole was talking about just using cards that are around and trying to build around those, a little bit. Mm-hmm. Chris is very much like that. Like there's cards that are around and it's like, is this the best pick for the deck? No, but I want to see it. So I'm putting it in.
I'm there. I'm a little not there when the whole keystone of the deck, which we call a commander, is not getting you there.
Yeah.
You can't hold it up.
True.
And then I'm really not there when you're pretending like the people you play with aren't going to be there every week.
True. That's another one.
Like if it was a different story, if we were in like a very low, heavy aggro meta that was not like, he'd probably be okay. Where I'm like always sideways for some reason and I'm just wide open to his double attacks. But he won't find me there. He won't find me there, dude.
True story. True story.
Cock cage.
All right. I want to use this.
Seriously.
I'm like, how am I supposed to move on when you say cock cage? You just...
Seriously, Kyle.
Saute some cock cage in there, dude.
I want to move on. What do you mean cock cage?
Just hanging over this conversation, cock cage. I'm gonna make some poutine.
That video. Okay.
So I want to bring up this one last example that I think can transition us from these commanders that reward, like maybe a multi-directive deck, and then move into talking a little bit about some that I think are necessity, like themes that necessitate this multi-directive thing.
Okay.
Sun's brought up Neheb the Eternal in the conversation in the Discord, and how you really do kind of want those early mid-game-ish level damage outputs, because Neheb gives you red mana on the other side of combat for the damage you've dealt to players that turn, right? And so, but because there's the potential for such a huge output of mana from that trigger, you kind of want some big splashy shit too.
Yeah, right. You're all dressed up and nowhere to go kind of thing.
Yeah, so like you don't want to just have a deck that's just strictly early, mid damage stuff, and then you get to the other side and you've got 25 red mana and you only have cards that can use up 10 of it, right? Like,
jeez, yeah.
That's kind of a bummer to do it that way. So you need maybe some big splashy activations some big splashy spells.
Would you say this is kind of like the issue I've ran into with Niv Mizzet, is like, I need to break the sound barrier and the thing that's in my way.
Yeah, so I do think...
here it's like, I have all this mana, but
I actually think that's,
to put it.
That's comparable, because maybe that's what moves us away from saying Niv Mizzet is a conversion commander strictly to, maybe it's more of a reward commander, right? Where you have sufficient rewards that necessitate more than, one directive being in the deck, right? And I think the cognizance of this can be important for us, because I think you're right. Niv Mizzet probably is like, yeah, the rewards are so good. Why would I just stick with one thing?
Yeah.
And Neheb, I think, is another good example of this. The reward's so good that why would you stick with just one thing that the deck is doing, right? This brings us to, I think, the idea of there's things independent of the commander that are just kind of these themes that naturally are multi-directive.
Okay.
We've talked about it a bit here with Spellslinger. And we've just done this Spellslinger series that you've put on for us. I think in a really good example of this is like the low mana value Spellslinger burn.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you want to get your gutter snipes, or, you know, I mean, you brought up like having Talrans or things like that. These things that have an output for your spell slinging that are oftentimes on creatures or artifacts or enchantments. So that's necessarily a different directive than just the spell slinging that the deck is about.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any commentary, because you spent a lot of time in that space, but like that's one where it feels like it would be impossible to just build a singular line directive for yourself.
I would agree. Short of you just saying, I drew all the cards in Thassa's, I guess, but that line is huge. I mean, like they don't even attempt that. You gotta basically nuke your own library and get there some other way. Yeah.
Another one with this is aristocrats. This is, you know, when you sit down and you think about it, like we're saying, I say one theme to you, but in truth, what you are probably constructing into this deck are creatures that want to die.
Yeah.
Things, permanents that see death.
Yeah.
And sack outlets that make the death happen.
When you want it to.
When you want it to, right? Rather than being...
With an output.
Yeah.
Like with an output.
And oftentimes an output from it, right? Like...
Mana or scry
or whatever. Yeah. This is necessarily like you can't, even the best commander that you could come up with for aristocrats probably doesn't do all of those things for you, right? It's not going to be a self-contained creature that wants to die, creature that can kill itself, and an output for you, right? Like it's probably rare to find something that contains all three of those directives within it. So your commander's probably covering one or two of them, but your deck is going to have and satisfy many of these different directives for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I would agree. Like that one's a really good, I mean, we started with that kind of a little bit with the Goonies thing, but
yeah,
it's almost, it is a connection of things. It's such a well-regarded strategy that it has its own name for it. Right. Because the consistency that is there, like the density of
all of those different directives.
Yeah. All of them. What did you say? You made a deck once where you had 12 of each.
Yeah. Like I remember, I think when I did Teysa that doubles the death triggers, I think I was doing like,
and that was fucking years ago,
10 to 12 in each category.
That was years ago too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Elenda, I think is another example that's been brought up. You were talking about what you've done with TIFs for that recently, right? Like there are, you know, conventionally those three directives where, but you were kind of mentioning that you've kind of adopted it to where you're like, I'm not actually going to put in the blood artists that are seeing the death. It's just Elenda sees the death.
Yeah.
So I've got tokens and
all the white's best draw package, which is creature enters powerless, CMC less.
All the welcoming draw type stuff.
She needs the draw, like she needs it. I've watched her play a lot of games with Elenda. She's had some really crazy ones. You've been there where you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
But the consistency is just not there, you know? And I was like, okay, what is going on? And I asked her, I'm like, does this deck need help? And she's like, I don't know. Sometimes it does okay. And I'm like, but what's going on? Like, what is the difference between her just like taking over and it really was when she got that magical Christmas land connection between things. So I went back to the drawing board with Linda and I'm like, I am stripping out like most of this stuff because we can't connect it anymore when we took the tutors out.
Yeah.
She had a pretty high density of things, but it's still 3 categories. It's still like sack outlets, creatures that like dying or that we're okay to see die, and then creatures that benefit from it. And I'm like, well, let's take that category and just shove it because we have that one in the command zone.
The zone does it.
And then let's take those slots and reserve them to the other 2. And the thing I'm really looking for is fucking getting more of it out of the library at a clip, more of it. So it's got to be draw. So it's like, okay, let's throw that Enduring Innocence in, to Cage's Welcome, and then just things that make you tokens without having to pay mana. That was just huge. It was huge. So now she just sits there and she just keeps swelling up and up and up with more and more tokens.
Yeah.
And all she has to do is introduce Elenda to this situation. And short of a specific category of wide removal, you were just going to give her, and then she'll just start swinging with the tokens.
Yeah.
Or a sack outlet, and she empties the tokens into Elinda in the form of counters. And then when that thing dies, they just pop out being tokens again. It seems to be working a little bit more consistently, but gone is all of this stuff that we used to worry about with her
which I actually, I love that example because it's like the conventional thinking is these 3 directives, right?
Yeah.
But to have a successful deck, you know, in this case, you have a commander who's like, I can see the death, so let me just build a bunch of bodies.
Yeah.
And if they die, the commander sees it, and we could make them die. But I like that that's like, to me, a really good example of even where the conventional build is asking for these 3 different directives, we don't have to do them all.
It seems to be working better. And this is really born of our very specific setup where we can't get in the library anymore.
Yes.
And then the other thing that she's up against, and this is just because, you know, there's card draw in the command zone. Like, and Elinda's not that.
Right.
That is just a huge shift in how you have to go about making your deck. Mm-hmm. If you don't have something that gets you into your, you take it for granted. I think a lot of my deck construction, when I'm looking at it, it just works and I can't explain it. And then I'm like, oh, well, because there's just like a way to get into the deck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So that's not there. So I have to really, really heavily favor these other things, because what I'm up against, you know, the devils I'm up against are things like their roadmap commanders, some of them. Mm-hmm. Like I would say they would, you know, you and I are, I think we're orbiting this topic. We want to talk about it during an episode, but like there's a lot of them where they allow for something really insidious in your deck construction, which is they don't compress your slots. They actually free you from needing to do veggie type cards. Like somebody could sit here and say, Knight's Whisper is a great card. And I would agree. Pound for pound, it's one of the best draw spells. It's unfettered. It just gets you the cards.
Yeah.
But you can't sit here and tell me that it synergizes with a lot of what's going on in a game. Short of like, I cast a sorcery and then my deck somehow sees that through a trigger.
Sure.
You know?
It's just generically going to do the thing, but it's not on any thematic rail.
Yeah, but if somebody said, I put Knight's Whisper in every one of my black decks, or Read the Bones and its cousins, I'd be like, yeah, dude, I think you're fine there. They're really great cards. They're veggie cards. You see?
Yeah.
But if you're starting to talk about cards like decks like this, where the commander just naturally gets cards out of your library and gets them into your hand, I don't know if you need them. And there's let's say you did Knight's Whisper, Read the Bones, and I don't know, pick another one, right? Like those 2, there's only 2 in the whole deck.
True.
You know, like what scenario are you finding yourself in where they're going to save you and pull you out? I don't know. Maybe your commander's offline. Maybe you've been managed to oblivion and this will save it.
Sure.
I just don't know about stuff like this, you know? Like, I'm not saying one's right or wrong. I'm not sure about how to think about this type of pocket dimension that we're in, where that's going to turn the game around. When is the goal consistent play over many games, or these one-off cases that you might hit?
Which I think is another piece of thing to this to me, because not everybody's looking for consistency or optimization, which I don't think we're trying to push you that way. I think we're just trying to set up a framework of considering how to get to where you want to be playing with your deck.
Yeah, like
right.
So for Tiff's deck specifically, there's so much it can cave to. Like there's so many ways to just unwind this deck, because it's kind of leaned in on all of these things. Like you might be able to even do some kind of metagaming around her deck and kind of gimp it pretty bad. Those cards would be pretty niche, but you could do it, you know?
Yeah.
Right? Knight of Soul's Betrayal, for
I was going
to
say Knight of Soul's Betrayal would totally do it.
We'll do it. I'm not going to run a card like that right now because the meta isn't very token heavy. I move to that when like there's too many of these decks. So like right now, graveyards are back out of control.
Yeah.
They're just way out of control again. So now I'm provisioning graveyard hate into every one of my decks. You know, token hate, not so much, but we had an era where there was tokens everywhere. We just,
may as well.
People were going nuts with it. It's like Skull Clamp was just too hot. And I'm like, I'm done with that, you know? So, I guess what I'm trying to get at is there's a weird thing that happens when you have a resource that you always have available to you in the command zone that doesn't do something like, hey, do a thing out of your deck and do it twice. While extremely powerful, the deck still requires veggie cards that they're really not there to push your game forward. They're just there to get you supplied.
Right.
You know, they're just to pack up your backpack so you can survive the road trip with the rest of us. Like that's what they're there for. And Elenda just doesn't do that. Like there's a lot of combos and things you can do with Elenda. There's a ton.
Sure.
But in the end, she can't be in a deck that looks like she draws you cards because she can't.
Right.
Then that's just huge. So when I'm kind of realizing that where she's up against decks that do that, and because they do that, they're allowed to play just banger cards. Everything that comes out of their untap step is just huge because they're just allowed to do it because their commander is doing the rest for them.
Right.
It's an uphill fight in a big way. It's a really huge uphill fight. So I had to just kind of collapse it down and condense it. And there's still the risk that she'll draw the wrong half.
Which I think
that's all I can do.
Which I'm loving this example though, because you're right. Like the context matters in terms of in which it's functioning, right? There is a context where Elenda that's trying to meet all of the classical aristocrat directives. There was a time that fit in really well in our group. And now rightfully, I think, identifying that like, hey, we can reduce the complexity of this and increase the consistency and
consistencies for specific outcomes.
Right.
And they don't hit everything. And she's now kind of more narrow on the lane she's in, but it's not I never drew this.
Yeah. And
I'm not going to hear that from her anymore.
She's consistently posing a threat where there's bodies on the battlefield.
I needed a sack outlet.
It creates dilemmas in blocking for people, right? Because they're like, well, she's sending tokens, but if I block the tokens, Elenda gets bigger. And so I guess I'm just going to let the tokens through because, well, and then she's also got the welcoming vampire. So whenever she's doing these things, like she's getting cards. And,
yeah.
You know, like, so I think that directive approach here makes a lot of sense. I want to move into talking about like the harebrained multi-directive.
Oh, we haven't done that already?
A little bit.
All right.
So there were a couple examples that came up in the Discord. One of them you actually alluded to, and that was the astral slide.
Yeah.
So I'm never going to begrudge people doing these kind of like niche card builds, but let's be sober about what they mean.
Mm-hmm.
It means that there is, so if you're not familiar with astral slide, it says when you cycle a card, you can exile a creature. Is it a creature or permanent?
It's a creature. Yeah.
Creature until end of turn, then it comes back.
Yeah.
Right. This requires a lot, right? Because now you have to get the astral slide. Mm-hmm. There's commanders that allow you to do this, right? So a lot of people popularly will choose Zur.
Mm-hmm.
So now you don't have to do a package to
then you're there.
Obtain the astral slide. Your commander does it for you.
Yeah.
But if you're not doing Zur, you've got to have a whole package in your deck that finds you the astral slide.
Yes.
Then you have to have the cycling cards.
And there's a lot of them. Yeah.
But you have to have enough to trigger the astral slide. And then you need the creatures
that are worth astral sliding.
That are worth putting through the slide.
Yeah.
There's a lot of directives in this deck. And it's a little harebrained because your commander is basically an enchant in the 99.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, yes, acknowledging Zur is one thing, but we also have these other directives. Like this can be kind of harebrained a little bit to do this, right?
Yeah.
I'm not yucking anybody's yum, but the chances of pulling this off, the consistency are going to be a little bit more difficult in terms of achieving what we need to do. And your margins are thin. You've done this.
Yeah. Like if I was to go about this again and try, cause I like cycling as a mechanic. I like cycling because it's full of, a lot of silver bullets. These cards are very niche. They do a specific thing. And then their mana value is a little out of range, but down in the corner is well, if that doesn't apply right now, get rid of it and draw a card. Like that's really how that reads to me.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of and a lot of them are attached to different card types, specifically instants and sorceries, where it's like, there's a way to rubber band them back into relevance, either back into your hand so you can cycle some more or cast them from, the graveyard exile pile with Mizzix's Mastery. And then we had a battery of support in the last couple sets. Aether Drift gave us stuff where it's like, hey, whenever you discard, so they like walked away from the word cycling specifically. They're like, hey, whenever you discard a card, do something. So there's ways to hook it down. The danger, I think, here is that you're dialed in on this one effect, the astral slide, and it needs one other thing. So if I was to go about trying to make a cycling deck today without tutors, because I did do an astral slide deck with Zur, but it basically was in the command zone. It was my first combat with Zur. That's what I went and got.
But to be fair, the place where this got, I think, it swelled in popularity was when Gavi came out, and that didn't have a tutor in the zone to get you that, right?
Yeah, but the connection there is, well, every time you cycle, you get a cat.
You get an output.
Or whatever. You draw cards, and then, there's just so many ways to do it. And it gave us a bunch of spells specifically designed, and not to mention had a fierce guardianship in the deck. So I guess if I was to go about this now, I still would use Astral Slide, just because I can exile one of your creatures. But the rest of the deck is really just like, it's the highest density of those things I can get.
Yeah.
And then making sure, okay, but do I also have the things I just need to survive a modern Commander game? Like, do I have removal on these cards independent of the slide?
Yeah.
I probably just abandon the ETB matters. I'm almost like, I guess I have to just get off of that, because unless those creatures also have cycling and also do something for me, I don't know. Like, I think the only one I would consider, and this is my bias showing like hugely, is just fucking an Archaeomancer, because I can get the thing I cycled back to my hand, I suppose. That's what I'd be doing.
And there's a battery of things like that, right? Because people were doing Aromancer with the Astral Slide as well, because it's kind of backup plan for the Astral Slide, but also could be blinked for some of the other cycling type things.
It's such a cool, dude, cycling is sick as hell. It just is. But the only reason I'm even okay with it is that there's so many cards with cycling, and they all ditch and draw, which is enough. Like, that'll at least get you through the deck. So I guess I'd have to look at what somebody was proposing when it came to, how much of this can I do? What is the likelihood that I'm going to hit it? And do I need to be in my library looking for things specifically to make it work?
Yeah.
A couple of tutors and it works, dude. You'll be fine. Without it though, I'll probably do the other version of Astral Slide, because it itself has cycling.
True.
And I can still get things out of the way a little bit. And then the rest is all this. And really I'd be looking at, okay, well, who in the command zone cares about any of this? Is it because the action is I'm discarding, I'm drawing. So I know there's probably plenty of commanders that care about that verbiage. Does it have to be specifically cycling? What colors are the best thing where I can get the most consistency out of them? And how do we make it all work with Thrasios? Yeah. Because that's where we'll probably fucking end.
Right. It's because activations, right?
Yeah.
Another example.
Because I'm going to want 4 color. I know.
Another example that came up in the Discord was Micah brought up their deck with Squall Seed Mercenary.
Uh-huh.
And the idea being, which that one, I think it gives a creature a double strike if it attacks.
Squall Seed
Mercenary. But his intent there is to get Cloud Midgar Mercenary into play, which I think doubles up attack and equipment triggers.
So whenever you attack with a creature alone, that creature gains double strike till end of turn. Whenever Squall deals combat damage to a player, return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield.
So a good backup plan if you lose Cloud, because Cloud's 2 mana. So Squall can, give some benefit to Cloud attacking, and also can recover Cloud if we lose Cloud to the graveyard.
Mm-hmm.
I do enjoy these types of things, but I will say what this means when you have a secret commander or like a pet card where there's not a lot of redundancy that exists for that kind of like pet effect that you're trying to harvest. Astral Slide's one of those, right? This usually means you need a kit, right? Like you need a tutor kit, or you need a polymorph kit or something like that in order to make sure that you land on your secret commander or pet effect. And that's just another directive that fits into your deck, right? Like, so I'm not saying don't do this, but it's just a caution of like, like in this case, it's an equipment deck and you've got one person that you want to get that equipment onto. Okay, that's sensible, right? That you don't have too many other directives in the deck. But if you have a bunch of directives already existing and then you're trying to do a secret commander, that starts to really strain the capabilities of your deck, like, and the capability that you'll have of piecing those things together.
Yeah. Or like, because you're so glued to this one interaction that you've made the whole deck adjacent to it and it's not as strong. I've done that.
That's a possibility.
Where it's like, it works. And if I hit this, it's crazy. But everything else I've done is like, it's so on the nose next to it that it itself just isn't that effective. And so while it appears like I'm having an effective game with people, I still didn't do the thing that's, does that?
Yeah. So I'll give an example where I'd built a deck. I'm going to come back to cycling, actually.
Okay.
So years ago, you presented a Varina deck with a cycling theme in it.
Mm-hmm.
Varina has this like combat thing with zombies attacking, and you kind of
cycle. Yeah, you discard and draw.
Discard and draw. Yeah. So it has this cycle-esque feel with the zombies, and I think that's kind of what you were doing. Is like, there's two different ways to harvest this effect. You can either directly cycle, or you can attack with zombies. I just couldn't dial in the balance with that deck because I built what you had brewed. And I think if you had built it and had a chance to tinker with the balance of it, it probably would have worked out.
Maybe the density wasn't there though.
But it was hard because I was like, do I do the zombie thing, the cycle thing? Like, it felt like these two things that I couldn't.
And you probably it probably had one really compelling line somewhere in there where it all makes sense.
It did.
And so we're trying to stick as close to it as we can.
But I've just found myself like not doing it.
Yeah.
And it felt like I didn't have fidelity to anything.
Yeah.
So I think that's an example maybe akin to what you're talking about, of just like, sometimes you don't find yourself doing the thing because you put the other thing in.
Yeah.
You know? One last category I want to touch on that I think is the adjacent to the harebrained ideas.
Okay.
And this is commanders who have too many hooks.
Too many
hooks.
Okay.
So the example that I've done is and I avoided this successfully, thank goodness, but Takesha, the dig site mentor.
Oh wow.
Right. So people who have maybe heard me talk about it, what I specifically was doing is Takesha has this line that says creatures you control have vigilance and tap surveil 1. But she also has this activation of you can pay 2 and 2 green and 2 white and 2 blue and exile Takesha dig site mentor from your graveyard. Mm-hmm. So she's got to fucking die. Mm-hmm. Return any number of target artifact cards with total mana value 10 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery. So you get up with a lot of people who are building in these creatures to get the activation on those creatures, but then they're getting artifacts so that they can then try to weld the artifacts in or get the artifacts from grave to field or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just a lot. Too many hooks.
Yeah.
There. And so I just don't think that I found.
Yeah, you can do anything with her. You just can't do everything.
Yeah, just don't do everything.
Yeah.
I found that it was nice to just have creatures that have vigilance and can tap and surveil.
The vigilance is enough for me. You could peel it back that far.
Totally.
You're like, I actually don't care about the surveil.
I don't even care about the surveil.
It's just
the vigilance is awesome.
Green creatures and blue creatures have no business having vigilance.
Yeah, absolutely. That is sufficient. That is enough of a hook.
It's so wild.
It's so good, right? I think that was like a really good instance of like, I'm not building too much, or it makes room for other directives, right? So my thing was, I want to do, self-mill basically with the surveil, and then do eternal witness type things to then set up combos, right?
Yeah, I had a combo deck.
I had a lot of like intruder alarm combos in my deck and things like that. So
yeah.
Like it made, because I focused on just one thing that one hook the commander gave me, it made room for me to build around other directives in the deck rather than trying to do everything speaking to her. One last example that came up in the Discord was dog meat. I think this is the Ever Loyal. So this one says when Dogmeat enters the battlefield, mill 5 cards, then return an aura or equipment card from your graveyard to your hand, actually.
Okay.
It's not even to field. And then it says whenever a creature you control that's enchanted or equipped attacks, create a junk token.
Interesting. Which
you can use those junk to sacrifice it, exile the top card of your library. You can play that card this turn, activate only as a sorcery.
I always get scrap and junk right.
They're
different. Scrap does nothing but everything.
But it's a fucking artifact, right? So do something. It was mentioned in that conversation. There's just kind of like too much to do. Like, obviously, auras and equipment and there's too many directives to build around there. Cause now it's like, okay, well, how do you build your card draw around both of those? Well, you should probably pick one so you can build your card draw around one.
Yeah.
How reliable is the mill to get some card advantage out of that? Because it's on enter. It's not a Titan. So it's not enter and attack. So how often are you just going to get that Dogmeat trigger once? Like, can you really rely on it? Do you just need to build an Enchantress build around it to get your cards?
I don't know.
Are you going to do this thing? And are you going to build something around the junk to get you some card advantage instead of doing the Enchantress thing? Like,
but then you need the auras to get, right? Don't you need, they need to be modified or enchanted or equipped to get the junk.
Right. So what are you doing? So there's just a lot of hooks here. And I would just say, like, if you're building around Dogmeat, like, pick your lane so that you can simplify the number of directives you're trying to satisfy. It would be a mess if you tried to meet everything that this dog was giving you.
Yeah.
Like, that would be crazy. So don't get too convoluted when they give you too much.
Yeah. I guess in this case, treat the last one, the tertiary, as like, well, this is nice.
It's nice.
It's not the focus. Whichever one you're not hitting on. So like, if the junk is the piece you're after, you're like, well, I have a Naya exile thing. I don't know.
Sure.
Then it becomes the primary focus, but like the rest, I don't know how that one could be your primary because it's kind of conditioned on the others. I don't know, but like, maybe that's how that works, where it's just nice to have this. I have tokens, so Jahira, right? Or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I dig that. Are there angles that we haven't covered that's pop into your mind? I'm sure there's plenty of angles with this that we haven't come to. But
I don't know. We're probably off the rails a little bit by now. This is a weird episode.
It kind of is, but I'm like,
it's coming off like, maybe my agenda's coming through with what I'm saying. I just, when you play, I've been kind of like trying my best not to make new decks lately because I'm getting high on the new experiences and I'm failing to do that. I've done a few like in the last few weeks, but
sure.
I used to just be like every weekend I'd try something new and that's fun. That's how I like to engage the hobby. But what's been happening lately is just like the consistency of some of my lists of what they were supposed to do just isn't happening as often. It's not ever. It's really hard to think about these like pocket dimensions of Commander where I'm imagining an outcome or I'm imagining a scenario, and it's really hard to do even with just 2 people, let alone 3 others and myself.
Sure.
So like one of the ones that I've been really into and I loved the first game I played with it was I made a Sig River Cutthroat list.
Right.
Where the idea was I'm going to introduce initiative to the game. I'm going to introduce Monarch to the game. And then my side of the table will have evasive creatures with at least 3 damage.
So that you can draw.
Because Sig reads at the end of turn, if one of my opponents lost 3 life, I draw a card.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this is kind of like a Demir Marquesa type situation a little bit. So I got the best versions of those cards, like the Courts of Loch Thwain and the thing that brings initiative and and then I try to adhere to the idea of, and I'll come back and pick it up with 3 and whatever. Right. And so I had a few games where that happened. I was able to get both into play and somehow, some way they were on different opponents, some Monarchs over here and initiatives over here. And it worked out okay. But then there was the other half of those games where I'm only getting these not so great non-evasive initiative bringers.
Sure.
And I can't hold it. And then I'm getting trap pointed at me and my stuff's getting fucking goaded through the middle. And then someone's landing on the throne of the dead 3 and no one's getting anywhere. And that's the risk you take by introducing those specific mini games to any game. It wasn't unique to mine.
Yeah.
But it's like I walked away going, I didn't draw any of my evasive creatures. Or the other half where it's like, I just didn't get any quality out of my deck. I got all these 3/3 guys, right? The Latch Seeker, the True Name Nemesis, all this stuff that's like, it fits the bill. I'm drawing a card, but what I draw after that just isn't coming up to the power altitude of what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
Like I'm staring down the face of Ali Boo and 30 damage if you get run tap. And I'm like, okay.
You're like, this is much different from what I'm doing.
Yeah. So I had one of the best games I've had in a long time was with that deck. It was that Nuriv deck. That was sick. It was a good game.
That's right.
But it just, I guess I'm trying to my best to think about over the long term, over 5 games, what's happening, over 10 games, what's happening. And that's hard to do with somebody with double-digit commander rosters.
Sure.
But I'm looking at this going, this episode, to take it back to the episode, is I had too many directives.
Yeah.
They didn't really overlap enough. Like, let's say this would be like the ideal card for me. There's a 3/3 flyer that's for 4 mana, and when it enters the battlefield, it brings the Monarch. That's like ideal.
Perfect.
Because it camps both sides of it. Well, it is both evasive and it brings a Monarch.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But instead, I've got a 1/3 that's Death Touch and brings a Monarch. So I got the Monarch, but I can't get the side of the Sig draw that I want.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah. You're like, you in order to satisfy this, you want that like value dense card, like does all the directives.
Yeah. So, and this is with a card draw commander in the command zone. Like this is in the face of everything that I've been talking about a little bit last however long. Like I do have a good card draw source, and you guys can hit each other and just passively do it because you need to be lowering life totals and they need to be attacked. And I just kind of get the card, It just wasn't consistent enough. And then it turned into the best games for me were when I was able to clone something of yours because I could suddenly rise and match your card quality with my goofy thing that just wasn't keeping up. So I'm trying to find the balance. And I kept saying to myself, like, I know the right thing to do is to take the initiative and most of the Monarchs out of this deck. Like, I just know I need to fucking bring this up. I'm not keeping up with you guys and your goofy stuff that you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. I get Lorehold who's just spinning around the table and throwing huge spells around. And it's like, none of this is counting
like,
for
why are
anything.
you cheating?
It's just like, like no one's interested in the mini game that I'm trying to bring.
Yeah.
And then they get it and I can't really go anywhere with it. So I start putting teeth in the deck and it just works a little better. It's still hard. It's Dimir aggro. It's not really the right colors for this, but it's closer.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking for more consistent experience where I have to kind of abandon this notion that you guys are going to chase the initiative around the table and I'm going to draw a card every time you guys do it. It just didn't pan out that way. I was naive in thinking that was how it was going to go. What's going to happen is someone's going to get the initiative or the Monarch, hold it, and keep up huge ass fucking blockers. And people are going to be like, I'm not going over there because I don't want to lose my creatures. He can have his stupid thing. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Not, I'm going to suicide to get that. Oh yeah, I love it. That just wasn't how it goes. So it got trapped in places. And I didn't have a way.
Stuck.
And I might be able to dig it out, but guess who's going to come right back at me? The dude with the giant green creatures and take that shit right back, and be like, give me that. Yeah. So, and then hit me with the trap as to remind me who daddy is, and I'd lose 5 life. Cool. Cool. So I don't know. It was a thing where I needed to kind of dial it back. I had to pull all that stuff out. I mean, I labeled it Monarch Initiative Dungeon on Archidect, and I was like, it worked out.
It's its namesake.
And I'm saying it. I'm not. It did. There were games that worked. It happened. Like you guys had the right combination of things. You're like, yeah, I want both. I'm going to go after it. I get the card draw, and I leave it away from me because I'm just picking up the cards, and I'm okay. There were games where that worked, but it just wasn't.
Yes.
Always.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't.
And you crave a little more consistency.
I just do. Yeah. I'd rather have that where I'm like, I'd rather have I have a lot of these things going on and this just kind of shakes out better.
So I'll tell you an example that I have on my roster. I haven't played the deck as much lately. One, because I tiered it to bracket 3 and we don't really do much bracket 3. And then the other thing is that so this is my Golem deck, that drains somebody for my life gained on, I don't know, I guess I'm just into that effect.
Yeah.
Something happens because I gained life on my turn.
Yeah, I guess that's true, huh?
One, I guess because I got obsessed with Hope S time. But the other thing too is that I was convinced that it was going to be really hard to get Golem to other people's faces.
Mm-hmm.
It has Skulk, but I was like, I'm not convinced that's enough. So I put this huge directive of edict creatures in the deck to just keep people dropping all their creatures so that Golem could always get his boop on people so that the trigger, they're available to that trigger, right? But I actually don't have that much life gain in the deck. Like, it is possible that I might not gain enough life with that deck to finish my opponents.
Yeah.
Because it just might not draw it.
Yeah.
Because there's all of these fucking edicts in the deck
that aren't moving you any further. Like, you don't really have any triggers to watch that.
Yeah. So I've over-indexed for trying to get Golem through.
Yeah.
To where it's like, yeah, I probably need to strip that directive down, if not out.
Right.
And just be focused on Skulks enough and then gain the life.
Yeah.
You know, like.
You just give him Basilisk Collar and be like, take it or we'll trade.
Yeah.
And
one way or another.
Time, people will go, fuck it, I'll just roll the dice. You know?
One way or another.
Right.
Yeah. So anyways, like I think there's all of us have these decks where maybe we don't have the right commander, you know, like something like what Chris was going through with his, where it's like, yeah, you might be able to strip some, you know, a directive out that's trying to protect your commander and just enjoy your game if you picked a different commander. Or maybe there's too many hooks that we've built around, or maybe there's ones where it's like the theme, it makes sense, like with aristocrats, but maybe we have a commander where we don't actually need all the traditional pieces, all the traditional directives.
Yeah.
We can scale it down a little bit to get some consistency. I just hope that people, I don't know. I usually come with like a little more like directed line of conversation, but you and I kind of adapted this
out of shape.
Adapted this a little bit. Hopefully there's something valuable here of like.
Yeah, I think this is just for anybody who's like, they're thinking, sometimes I win, it's my meta, I don't know. And you get married to something and you don't want to walk away from it. So like the Athreos deck that I've had for years, for a little bit, like I had to change it. I can't do it anymore. Like you guys are, you know, to use Jeff's saying, you're inoculated to it. Like you kind of know.
Yeah.
And that's just the life cycle of any deck. But I'm looking at this thing and going like, I got to just stop being cute with this. It's the cutest deck there ever was.
Yeah.
And by cute, I mean like I have to, cute to me is like, I have to explain to you what the hell's going on, you know? So I tore out a lot of these cards that under specific conditions are really cool. So like, for example, there was one that was called Standard Bearer. The idea with the Athreos deck is the creatures just aren't generally worth Kyle's life total to keep them away from me. So he's just like, whatever, put them back in your hand. I'd rather just burden Andy with the task of recasting them than lose my life that I need to hang on to because people are just ramming into each other left and right.
Yeah.
And that was the idea, but I got really into the idea of so many of them. So the standard bearer is like, hey, if a target goes off anywhere that has to target anything, it's got to target a standard bearer, and it's very likely that it's the only one.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like this weird Phyrexian metamorph effect that just sticks out there.
Yeah.
But I'm entirely reliant on you guys doing something to zone change that permanent. See, what I need is it to go to graveyard so I can draw off the Grim Horus specs or the whatever.
Right.
And I could attack you with a 1/1, but now I can't block and I'm going to take more damage, and I really don't want to block with my Grim Horus specs. So I tore all of that out. Anything that just required you guys to do something.
Yeah. Because we have agency in that, and we're all like, not gonna.
Just tore it out. I started with that layer, you know?
Yeah.
There was a lot of cool stuff. There's so many on paper, this makes a lot of sense. But I'm up against stuff like that fucking winter precon, that precon winter that Brad's using, and like that, like Zach's Aragorn, 4-color Aragorn. I have to just really snap the fuck out of it. If I want to keep this deck, it's either got to change or I got to abandon it wholesale. I love this deck. It was my favorite deck for a long time, but it's just not keeping pace with the reality the devil is telling me the devil's business and I'm like not listening and I'm signing his contract anyway. And he's like, I'm going to take your goddamn soul, right? Yeah, man. Yeah,
got
dude.
it. You got it, baby.
What? Huh?
Give me that donut.
Just give me that donut. And I just do it anyway, Yeah. Like it's just so obvious that I can't keep up with the cloud precon commander. Like that deck will just put you in the fucking mud.
Yeah.
I can't do it. Any trample and I'm hosed. So I'm like, I've got to take things over a little bit and be like, all right, I'm going to stick with this idea of it's not worth it for them to pay. Cause that just it collapses, I think, if I move this too far.
Yeah.
But I've got to have stuff that I have control over a little bit more,
Right.
Where I can choose when this thing dies because it sacrifices itself. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it got away from, it's entirely dependent on what you guys are going to do. And the list is just too long because you guys kind of just know. You know how to clock it.
Yeah.
You're like General Marhal is a really bad matchup with that deck because
you're like, I got a bunch of tiny creatures.
I have tiny creatures. I'm just going to get squished.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just had to get rid of them. And then the cards that like on paper, I've loved them for years, but like every time they're in my hand, they just stink up my hand and I never cast them. And it goes on for years, like Torgar. Like I adore that card, but I just never find a place to make sense to do it, dude. Somebody's at 70 life. Nope. You're at 20. When does that happen? It could happen. Sure. I'm about to die. Nope, I'm at 20. Sure.
Could happen.
Sure. Had to take it out. Yeah. So it's just kind of snapping out of it a little bit and like just being really, I guess, cruel about your own relationship with how you're constructing your decks and then going like, did I get here because I'm used to drawing the zone? Is that my other problem?
I think that's one of the big things to me is sometimes we get used to drawing the zone. Sometimes we get used to commanders that have the right hooks.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, but this deck doesn't have those things.
Fairy tale fantasy. Like it's basically smut. Like we're sitting here talking about it with people who have the same attitude that you do. And it becomes this like smutty echo chamber, Hermione Draco fanfic that it never happened.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like no Draco POV. I'm just gotta go back and really look at this hardcore and then make some edits. And trust yourself that you can do it. And it's like, okay, well, I prefer it be like this, but it's just not the reality. I got to just be here.
Yeah.
And then if it still doesn't work, well, then yeah, maybe you wholly abandon it,
Which that happens.
What a crazy episode. Oh God.
All right.
What's next?
I think we're going to put something to pasture.
Yes. I think I asked the will of the council patrons what they want us to give the lead asprin.
Ooh.
And I'm like, these are all commanders in our meta. Actually, this time I was like, we have these legends now. So I'm actually excited for that. Yeah.
All right.